Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Plant Powered Business Strategies to Grow Your Positive Impact. I'm Brieanah, and I'm joined with my friend Johanna.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk about market research and customer avatars. This is going to be a really juicy conversation. Johanna and I are going to get really deep into marketing strategy and tips. This is when we get to nerd out about marketing, so we're kind of excited. But first, as promised in past episodes, we'd like to bring you some news items from the movement to keep you up to date and things that you might want to comment on your own socials for your business or just be part of the conversation in the movement. I'm going to run through these kind of fast. So if you want any more information, we'll drop them in the comments under the YouTube video and on LinkedIn. All right. So first one, in the US, the USDA recently released new rules to expand vegan options in school meals, so making vegan options far more accessible. These took effect on July 1st, and they allow things like beans, peas, lentils to replace meat in lunches and cafeterias. And they add black bean burgers and tofu. So I thought it was worth mentioning that the US is expanding at a federal level to our youngest citizens options, and that's a really big deal. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but this is a milestone and kind of exciting. So definitely worth mentioning.
Yeah,
Um,
good job.
yeah, finally, US, good job. Heading over to the EU, a recent report on the future of farming was presented to the Commission President and urged the EU to support a plan for plant-based foods, asking for increased funding for nature and climate-friendly farming, and calling for change in farm subsidies to take effect by 2026 or be developed by 2026. Again, to see it at such a high level, this big push for more plant-based options and to make them actually work within government systems is really exciting to see. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that one in the next few years for sure. And then as we turn to marketing, of course, for this conversation especially, I have to note that the Vegan Society recently called out a UK government-backed meat campaign as irresponsible propaganda. The campaign was showing pictures of people consuming meat and calling it a balanced diet, that we have to think and eat balanced. That's simply not the case when it comes to meat consumption. The group called it Behind the Times, and if you're watching this, you likely understand why. Climate concerns and just outdated diet concerns, right? Now that we know more about what balance actually means, it doesn't mean primarily being a carnivore. So at the very least, if you're not vegan, being balanced is not just meat consumption. So that one in particular made me think, and Johanna, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. How, as marketers, do we keep in mind that we have to be ethical in the way that we're presenting things? And especially as vegan and plant-based entrepreneurs, it can be so easy to put our beliefs into it and being balanced in how we're speaking to people and who we're speaking to, which we're going to get into with customer avatars. This just put a spotlight on the dark side of marketing, if you will. I know we've talked about the concerns we had in going into the field of marketing in the first place in past episodes of, am I being too persuasive? Am I just being manipulative by going into marketing? And there's this ethical side of marketing where you actually are balanced with the facts and you're helping shine a light on what's actually going to help humanity, what's actually going to help animals in the environment. So this story calling out something that was more that manipulative, kind of shady side of marketing was interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah, I'm not even like sure how to answer the question that
Yeah.
you had, because it's, well, I mean, yeah, and anyways, like it's a huge topic. Like, first of all, what does it mean to market ethically? I mean, there are cases that we just, feel it or see it, that it's so like not cool or out of the line. But then, yeah, where it gets, when you like, where you draw the line sometimes between being inspiring or influencing people, and we all influence each other all the time. It's just part of being human, or then when where you're kind of pushing or manipulating. And I feel like the longer I stay in this like marketing copywriting business, the more like nuanced it gets, or the more you learn about like human psychology. And yeah, but like it could get like very philosophical actually, like when you think about it. But like no need to get there right now here. It's a whole rabbit hole for sure, like
It
going
is.
going down there.
It is a rabbit hole for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we could do a future episode on just the ethical considerations to put into your marketing efforts as a vegan entrepreneur. Um, I think anyone that is coming at this from a heart-centered, heart-led place of I see a pain point, or I see a change that needs to happen in order for like the greater good to prevail or for suffering to end, they are at far less risk than,
Yeah.
say, a corporation or a government that is being heavily lobbied by a corporation or a special interest
Yeah.
group that doesn't have the populace's best interest in mind, right? So I don't want to worry people as they go out to do their own marketing for their own
Yeah.
business. Like,
Yeah.
am I actually being ethical? If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably being ethical.
Yeah.
Um, it's just something to think about, like we're going to dive into with market research. Part of market research is understanding the opposition and also understanding who's in the space with you. So we'll be pulling on our advocacy background a little bit because that does come into this space, the plant-based space, of course, because there are alternatives, right? There are meat products to
Yeah.
the not meat products that you have to try and convince consumers are better for them, better for the planet, etc., and still meet their needs. So you have to understand the other side, and you have to understand the marketing that they're putting out, the tactics that they're using, whether it's manipulative or shady or actually ethical. So it's a far larger conversation. I totally agree. And I didn't mean
Yeah.
for you to solve it in this little news recap, but I did want to give you a chance to comment on it because there is so much to think about as our listeners head out there and start
Yeah.
putting marketing out for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we like when you're listening to this or watching us, like we at least like try to do our best to give you like the most kind of heart-centered ethical tips and strategies. And I think also like for myself and for everybody, it's good to remember that we all do our best and try our best, and marketing, as we've said before, it's testing, and like you learn all the time, and then you can pivot and try something new. And but yeah.
Great point. And I think a great segue
Yeah.
into what we wanted to talk about today. And so perhaps we start with market research because that's the biggest learning piece of putting out your own marketing campaigns, Johanna. So as you mentioned, like it's constantly learning, constantly developing. That's marketing. Like we have to test things, see how they perform with the audience, with who's out there consuming the content. But where do we begin, and what are the first steps of market research? Where do you want to start with this giant topic?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big one for sure. When it's a huge topic, I think it's like it gets easier when you focus on something like smaller or like a specific example. So for example, if I thought about my own business, like my copywriting and our marketing business, or somebody else, like let's say like a vegan, like a health coach or web designer or new burger, well that's very broad, but it's like I would start with, okay, like what else is out there? That's like one question. And like how saturated the market is and how aware the customers are of all the different options. I think like that already like starts to narrow it down nicely. It helps with the kind of, because like in marketing, like understanding your unique selling proposition or like what makes you different, it's so important. And I feel like looking at what else is out there and what makes them unique, what are they doing well, like what not so much. I think that's one like good place where to start. There are definitely other options as well, and I mean so many kind of questions you need to go through, but yeah, that's what I would say right now. What do you?
No, I think that's a great place to start, especially if you're brand new with your
Mm,
business. That that's the first thing. I always tell founders of nonprofits to do this because
yeah.
there are so many nonprofits. So same thing, there are so many businesses. There might be someone that's already doing something that you want to do. How could you support them, or how could you partner? Um, or maybe you are the first to your space, but you're not going to know until you do the research, right? And who knows, while you're doing the research, you might realize that the pain point of the audience or how they're currently being served is just like 1 degree off from actually getting there. And you could go and serve that little slice
Mm,
that's like not quite there yet, and they're not currently being served, the problem's not currently being solved, but you'll find that niche through your research. So you might have a great idea, it might be out there or it might need a little tweaking depending on what you find. So I think like my biggest tip as you start market research is just to be super open-minded.
mm.
Because it can be so easy to be like, oh, I have this idea, I know what I want to do, and then you go and find things that are going to support that idea. You know, you come in with a bias and you're only looking for the things
Yeah,
that tell you it's a good idea. But the more open-minded that you stay and get the bad with the good of how difficult it might be or how easy it's going to be, will all inform your journey and your messaging, your branding, your business overall.
yeah,
So just really keeping an open mind as you start. But then
yeah,
too, this goes to even established businesses and entrepreneurs. Like
yeah,
market research is a continuous cycle. The market is changing, customer behavior is changing. And so this should be something that's revisited. Of course, what establishes your business might not be revisited. Like you know who you are, you know why and who you serve, but that can always be tweaked just a little. So you might not have to go nearly as deep, but new competitors will pop up or new pain points might pop up. And you just want to make sure that you're staying up to date so that you're constantly serving at the top of the game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Such a good point, and also I just wanted to go back to this, like keeping an open mind. It's such an important point, and something I kind of have fallen into like my myself in the past, and probably it's pretty common because you're so like passionate
Yeah.
about your idea and like your skill set, and like, oh my God, they would so like benefit from this, but yeah, you need to keep an open mind. And yeah, our businesses usually, like more often than not, they evolve, and you're like this like special niche, or the sweet spot might be a little bit off from what you think, or yeah, just like you said.
Totally, totally. Well, and that's where like relationship building comes into play too.
Mm,
So as we bridge into the customer avatar part of this conversation later, you're building a relationship with the audience.
yeah.
So as you're doing research, you have to learn about them. You have to ask them
Mm,
questions. You have to be curious and open-minded to really know how you're going to serve them and build that lasting long-term relationship where they're going to always come to you for whatever that need is to be met. Um, so I think it it's part of the human condition, Johanna. So I know we both suffer from it. Everyone listening suffers from it, whether they want to admit it or not. To just come at things from their own perspective first, right? Like, oh, I know what I need. I know what the world needs. But people are so unique and different and varied experiences, and there is overlap where you can get that sweet spot and serve a bunch of people, but um they could be coming at it from a totally different way that you never expected, that because it
yeah,
wasn't your experience.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I'm glad we're hammering home the staying open-minded
yeah.
point, especially at the research phase, just because there's so many experiences out there and you just want to make sure that you're open to them all.
Yeah, and this yeah, two things come to my mind, and one is yeah, like a practical example. For the past couple of years, I've written Facebook ads for the Finnish January.
Oh yeah.
I always get confused with how to pronounce it, and going into the kind of well, this is a little bit more already on the understanding your customer, but and keeping an open mind. It's just so the good thing about this brand is that they have a lot of feedback from previous years. They've been doing it for over 10 years, and I was able to like get all these like pages and pages of like feedback and data, and it was just so interesting to see like what drives people or what inspires people to do this challenge. And it's so much of it is that like I have a different background or approach to veganism or going vegan than a lot of other people, and it's just had I not had this like all this data, like the messaging I was using, it would have been like a lot more off, because not everybody is me. And I think that kind of, I hope I'm not getting confusing here, but it's like so important to remember that you are not your customer necessarily, or you're not the like target audience. And for example, like in veganism, the fact that it's environmental and health reasons that inspire most people still. So yeah, just wanted to like put that out there. Yeah, we're gonna get to the customer avatar
Yeah.
later, but
No, I'm so glad you brought that up. And you are not your customer. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, we could talk about that for a whole episode. Both of us having clients, we run into that one a lot. People
yeah,
assume that they know what they want because they're thinking of their own perspective, and you're not your customer. Love that you brought that up. But to your other point, I do want to make sure that we're staying clear, because I
yeah,
think we've both kind of mentioned both things together. So let's recap, and then we can branch into customer avatars for
yeah,
sure. Um, so market research is more experiencing what is going on around you. So
mm,
you come in with an idea, or you have a business, you're in a certain sector or certain space. So you brought up a lot of examples earlier. So coaches, so there's a ton of coaches out there, right? What are all the coaches talking about? What are the coaches talking about that are counter to your point, that are similar to your point? If it's a physical product, you brought up burgers, right? There are a ton of plant-based burgers out there. What are the different flavors? What are the different recipes? What are the different, like, what are they going after? So Impossible wants to be like the meat version of plant-based meat, right? What is your angle that's a little different than theirs, so that people don't get you and Impossible confused together, right? So it's just getting a lay of the land of the whole market in your space. And then, as you mentioned, Johanna, part of that is customer awareness. So people know Impossible, they know that plant-based burgers are a thing, but how much are they aware of that there's different recipes and options and ingredients and health values and so this is where we get into who is your customer avatar, and who are you speaking to? What's their awareness level? What are their pain points? Maybe they don't want the meat version of plant-based meat burgers. And that's a pain point for them, that the texture is off for them. And so you could really lean into texture in yours, but you have to really understand who you're speaking to, and what they want to hear from you, in order to know that you are the one that's going to solve their problem. And that's where we get into the customer avatar side of things.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for that recap. I think it was very helpful. Yeah, so before we move on, there's one thing I want to mention in relation to this. So there's this guy who lived a long time ago, Eugene Schwartz, and he came up with these two concepts. One is levels of customer awareness, and the other one is stages of market sophistication, and it's related to exactly what we were talking about, like how saturated the market is, like how many options there are, and then how aware your customer or the person you want to reach is of the different options. And I'm not going to get like deeper into it, but I would really encourage anybody interested in this topic to Google it and get like a basic understanding, because when I first came across this, it was like during the Launchpad, this copywriting program that we've both done. It was like mind-blowing, and just like made it so clear that yeah, basically you need to talk differently to people, like differently to different people depending on how the market is. So just putting that out there, Eugene
Yeah.
Schwartz, and like we can also link it in the notes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
so glad you brought it up, Johanna. Um, especially for the movement that we're talking to, right? Like
yeah,
people who are in it are like, oh, there's so many plant-based options these days. Like everybody knows about it. And again, that's kind of where your bias might be coming in, right? Because the market as a whole is still pretty unaware, right? When it comes to why we need so many options or why they should make the switch. Like if your target market are omnivores, they might need a little bit more education,
yeah,
and that's where the levels of customer awareness really inform what level of education you need, and how much copy you need to put into your posts or into your ads or your emails that explains who you are and why you are the right solution for them. That they should switch from meat to you. That's going to take a lot. That's going to take a lot of nurturing and a lot of explanation. And so it informs your marketing strategy. And same with how many options are out there already telling them things that might not be right, or could be right. And they're just hearing a lot of noise, and you have to find a way to break through. Or maybe there's no other options and you can break through on your own, but that has
yeah,
its own hiccups of if it's super not saturated, if it's a brand new product, again, you have to do a lot of education because why should people pay attention? There's no one else doing that. Why should people pay attention? Why is this an issue? Right?
yeah,
So I think it's really, really important. I'm glad you brought up that there's a system out there for people to
yeah.
study if they dive in more for that.
Yeah, yeah, for all of us who like, want to understand that there's like a system behind there. Yeah, there is, and it's still relevant even though it's was created a long time ago. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Really helps break it down for any
yeah,
like hobbyist marketers out there.
yeah.
It really helps break it down for you.
Yeah,
Um, So then as we start talking about customer awareness and really educating and nurturing people, I think it would be helpful if we share some of our tips that we've used with clients or we use in our own marketing, even to really craft this customer avatar and help craft the messaging so it speaks to the right people and we're really
yeah,
forming a community and an audience around different brands. One of my favorite tips is to pick a friend or someone in your life that has similar interests. They might not be a perfect fit, but the more that you can picture someone that's real, the easier it can be to write to them.
yeah,
Um, so when I was first learning copywriting, I would often think of one of my friends and pretend I was just writing her text messages. And of course, the tone or the formula would change a little bit from a text message, but I would try to keep it that conversational, like, would I actually say this to her? Those sorts of questions that you ask yourself will only improve your copy, will only make it more relatable. Especially in the plant-based movement, I feel like we're working with a lot of data, like there are different studies talking about preferences, talking about environmental impact, talking about ingredients. And would you go through all that with your friend, or would you just tell them, this is going to taste amazing. You have to try this. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we just need to strip it down and get conversational and get friendly, like fireside chat style, right? With
yeah.
your friend. And that's what's going to be relatable and that's what's going to stand out. But it all goes back to picking an individual and really shaping who they are so you know how to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, or that you like, yeah, talking to your friend, because it's exactly what I did the first time I actually created like a proper customer avatar, like really this document with the demographics and what's even more important, all the like psychographics and like lifestyle and interest and um, pain points. I struggled with it. It wasn't easy, but then I started thinking about a friend, and yeah, it just like makes it so much easier, and like, because it really, and the point the point is that you want to talk to one specific person, because it's just so much more natural, it's so much more like persuasive and relevant, and I feel like I would really recommend, like, every business owner, if you haven't yet, like, try to go through like a customer avatar. exercise, like take a couple of hours. I can imagine that there's resistance to it, and but it's a really powerful exercise, and you might discover things that you don't even like realize. I don't even like know how to put it into words, but it just really like kind of forces you to think about what you're doing, and like why, and like what's the relevance. And yeah, so I recommend that. And actually it can get really fun, like once you like get past that like initial barrier that I at least experience. But yeah, like yeah, talking, and in general, yeah, talking to a friend, it's such a good strategy. And also I think remembering that you don't have to get it perfect again, and just like try it, just write and see what comes up. Yeah.
Totally. Totally. I feel like this stage that we're talking about, this research stage, like that's where market research and customer avatar, this is all before you're actually writing a piece of copy, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people who aren't as nerdy about marketing as
Yeah.
we are, perhaps, are like, oh, I gotta go back to school and like do all this research. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. But as you just mentioned, this is where it can get kind of fun and you can play with it, right? You can create a character, name them. Where do they live? What's
Yeah.
their job? Do they have pets? Are they married? Like you can get really creative and really create this person that you're speaking to, because like you said, it's so important to find one person and craft everything for them. And while that can be really scary and there's a lot of resistance to narrow in that much,
Mm.
that's where your copy gets relatable. And I know
Yeah.
we've talked about this before because we both have had clients that have said, oh, I talk to everyone and my business is for everyone. And that's great. That's a great aspiration. Of course, we all want to change the world in a really impactful, large way. But even big businesses are talking to one person and it's just relatable to multiple people.
Yeah.
Um, so that's where this exercise helps you find that person that you're crafting things for. Does that mean that if your customer avatar is a suburban mom in Idaho, that you're going to write very specific copy about living in Idaho? No. It means that like those larger themes of what her experience is, this is a suburban mom, are going to come through in your copy. So while we say get specific, we're not saying like only write to that mom. We're saying use the themes and the experiences that she's having to inform how you're talking
Yeah.
about your product, about your business. So I want to take out some of the fear in
Yeah.
narrowing by explaining that it's not just talking to that person, but it's thinking about that person
Mm.
and what their experience is, and then writing to those things.
Kind of, yeah, kind of reiterating here, but yeah, the fact that you have this one person in mind, it's just one person in the like wider target. It, yeah, doesn't mean that you're not gonna like appeal to other people as well. After all, like humans and like our kind of, yeah, fears and desires, and like they're a lot more similar than like not similar. So yeah.
Totally.
And again, like we've said it here, like here before, that like general messaging and copy, like it doesn't work. It doesn't like tickle the brain. So like you're like doing yourself a service, like a huge service, when you really, yeah, try to like figure out this one ideal
Absolutely.
person.
Okay, guys, we could definitely keep going on this one for sure. I told you we get excited about the nerdy stuff. So market research, customer avatars, this is the fun stuff for us marketing experts. We'll probably continue this in another episode in some form or fashion, I'm sure, just because we have so much more to say. But for now, we're going to try and cap it just so we don't talk your ear off for far too long. If you guys have any questions about anything we mentioned in this episode, or as you're building your own customer avatar or doing your own research, you want to ask us questions, our email is available there for you, plant-based business or plant powered business, excuse me, at gmail.com. And we will answer all your questions. We're here for you guys. We also host regular coffee chats where you can come meet other vegan entrepreneurs, ask us questions directly. That's your opportunity to chat with us directly and get those pressing entrepreneur questions answered. So we hope to see you in a future chat as well.
Yeah.
But till next time, bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.